Hi, I'm Sharon Jackson, and the owner and the dyer for Cabin Wool Fiber Arts. And I want to thank you so much for all of you that have supported us and purchased my hand-dyed yarn. It's just been a pleasure to send you the yarn and to serve you, and certainly exciting to see the different things that you have knitted with it. So I wanted to make a video on how to read yarn. We've had a lot of questions going around the internet. I don't want to buy hand-dyed yarn because I never know how it's going to turn out. Well, for the most part, you can get a skein of yarn and you can look at it and see how the dyer dyed it, and you should be able to kind of pattern what your project is going to look like. You won't be exact because there are different knitting tensions, there are different knitting needle sizes, and all of those things make a difference. So we're going to start today with what I have on the Addicted to Knitting website today for the Self-Promo Monday. This is on here, and if you go down into the comments, you can see pictures of how this is knitted up on two different ways. For some reason I lost the samples, so I don't know where they are. But this is called Cinque Terre, which is named after an Italian town in Italy. And you can see, as I dyed this, I came along with different colors in the dye pot at different intervals. You see how they run? It goes from one color, it blends into the next color with a third color. So now this is sock weight yarn. We'll talk about sock weight yarn. If you were to dye this, or if you were to knit this on a size 1 needle to knit socks, most of these pattern runs right here would stripe, because an average sock I think is around 68 inches or 68 stitches on the needle, and so you would get half stripes going all the way around, and it would begin to form some kind of a pattern. If you were to knit this for a shawl on a size 7, it would have an entirely different pattern. It would be all over, yet it would still have some spots that would form a little wider spots in the knitting with colors, and it would go all through there. If you look on my ad today on Addicted to Knitting, you'll see this knitted in a size 7, and you'll also see it knitted with a size 5 in a little hat, which is a lace pattern, and you can see the difference that it makes. Okay, now moving on to the same color scheme that I have. This is called Colored Freckles, and so this is the yarn that so many people like. This is just a yarn which is full of speckles. It really doesn't have any large dye spots in it, other than large speckle spots like this and like this, which are going to probably take up 3 or 4 stitches on your needle. But for the most part, this is a speckled yarn. I hope you can see that. So when you take a speckled yarn and you're going to knit, let's say a shawl, because that's what the majority of us are knitting. So when you knit a speckled yarn and you're going to knit a shawl, this is how it's going to come out. It's going to come out the base color with those different color speckles all over it. And now this is also knit on a size 7. Okay, if you were to knit this on a size 1 for socks, it would still be the background color and speckles, only there would be more of them and they would be closer together. So that's how you can kind of gauge speckled yarn. Okay, we're going to move on now to, this is Ura, which is a men's kind of sock yarn, or it can be, I don't know, camo. I knitted it with Marines in mind. So you can see on this one that it has long runs of color. They're not short. There's a long run of green, then there's a long run of brown and some black, then we come back to brown, then we come to green. So this is on sock weight yarn. Now if you were to knit this on a size 1 with socks, all of these would stripe, and they would stripe around. And so you would get a sock that had the dark green stripe, the brown stripe, the black stripe, and then you'd have little splotches in it of black, and it'll form a pattern on your socks. So when you go to knit something, look at the length of the color. And on all of my yarns, most of them anyway, that I have for sale on my website, I have a picture of the yarn folded like this so that you can see the color runs. Which brings me to, if you're going to buy hand-dyed yarn, you should be sure that the hand-dyed yarn has, after the dyer is finished and it's dried and it's like this, that it has not been unwound and rewound again into a cake, into a center pole ball. This is why I never dye those, because mistakes can be hidden like that and you cannot see the run of the colors. Okay, so now this one, if I were to take this and knit this hat, which I did, this hat was done on a little bit larger of a yarn, you can see how it striped those colors. But if I were to take this yarn and put it on a size 7 and knit a lace shawl, it would spread out all over. On a sock, it's going to stripe tightly. On a shawl with a bigger needle, it's going to spread out as a pattern. And if you have something on a medium weight, it's going to stripe these colors like this. Okay, that's Oorah. Okay, one last one. I've got Christmas yarn. I just happen to have all of my samples for Christmas yarn here, so we're going to do it. Okay, so this is Christmas yarn on a fingering weight, sock weight. So you can see again how there are long stretches of color. You put that on a number 1 needle, it's going to stripe red, then it's going to put on a little bit of green and a little bit of white, and then another little bit of red, and then it's going to stripe a green because that's a long stripe there. And so that will stripe beautifully for Christmas socks. Okay, but now if you were to take this same fingering weight and you were to use a size 7 needle, which is what I knitted this on, same yarn, then you're going to have an all-over pattern like that. I don't know if you can see it on this camera, but if you look at this, it does make a pattern. You can see a pattern in there. You won't see that definitively when you wear it, but you'll see it when you hold it up. See the different colors, how they do a pattern? So that would be on a size 7, a larger needle. Okay, now let's say, and that's fingering weight, all right? So now let's say we're going to move over to an Aran weight of the same dye pattern, and this has a little bit more white. So you've got white and speckles, you've got green, then you've got a little bit more blended, and then you've got bright red, and then you're going to go back around. Okay, so now if you were to knit on a, say a size 8, 9, 10, then it would stripe like this on a worsted yarn. So you can see what a difference of a pattern you can get depending on your gauge, depending on your needle size, and depending on your pattern. So many times, this is why dyers, and myself included, I don't swatch a lot and I don't make a whole lot of samples, because when you get the yarn in your hands, it's not going to do identically what mine has done. So hopefully that will help you kind of learn how to read yarn. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And again, thank you so much for your patronage. Bye-bye.